Hello and welcome to the podcast of the Prison Officers Association, the UK's largest professional union for prison, correctional and secure psychiatric workers with over 33,000 members. In this episode, I'm joined by General Secretary Steve Gillan, National Chair Mark Fairhurst and National Vice Chair Dave Todd to get the latest on the POA's pay claim for 2025. Listeners, we're privileged to have with us today the three most senior officials of the Prison Officers Association, National Chair Mark Fairhurst, Vice Chair Dave Todd and General Secretary Steve Gillan. And we're here to give members an update on the pay campaign because the union has recently given oral evidence to support its written submissions. And if I could turn first to you, Steve, what is the claim and what is the rationale for the claim that the union has submitted?
Well, ours was very simple. As per our written claim, which all POA members should have seen by now because it's on our website, if they read that, they will note the POA pay claim is for all pay points, consolidated uplift of 6.5%. And Mark and I had meetings with the prison service and with ministers as well. And we were even open to having a 2-year deal. Whether they come back at a later stage saying they want to negotiate a 2-year deal, that's a matter for them. It was very important, actually, that we did put in for this year's pay claim, and we're not ashamed to say the 6.5% is about restorative pay as well, and where we set out clearly in our documentations and our oral evidence the rationale behind that, because we have fallen behind. The pay review body, I think, know that. We've got a decent chair of the pay review body at this moment in time, which both Mark, I and Dave recognise. I think our claim was fully justified in everything that we've put forward. And I hope justice is done. We've been on record, as you know, saying we would much prefer to have the right to strike with collective bargaining rather than a pay review body, because we don't see it as a compensatory mechanism for not having that right to strike. In a nutshell, we believe the 6.5%, we recognise that inflation has slightly dropped, but that doesn't mean that prices have come down. And part of our claim as well is about that restorative pay going back to 2012. It's not all going to be done at once, but we feel fully justified in putting it at that level to ease the burden on the financial crisis that our members are facing on a daily and weekly basis.
If the government were to respond positively to the union's claim for a 2-year deal, what would it be 6.5% in the second year as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We've made that absolutely clear to them that our claims will be based on that restorative pay claim, where we've suffered pay freezes and 0% over a period of years. And that is no way to treat a professional workforce such as prison officer grades and operational grades the way they have been over the last sort of decade.
And Mark, the POA is well known within the sector, within the trade union movement, for submitting very powerful and comprehensive pay submissions. But to give oral evidence on top of that must be, well, what do you see as the value of reinforcing what's written down with oral submissions as well?
Yeah, I think that is the value, that we get the opportunity to justify what we've produced in a written form. It's more powerful when you're face to face with the decision makers. And it also gives us the opportunity to produce evidence that wasn't available at the time of our written submission. So, for example, I asked HMPPS for a specific report that they'd done to evaluate, which would have helped part of our claim. They did some sort of pilot scheme. And they refused to give me it. And I've got the email proof where they have refused to provide it because they keep making excuse after excuse. Now, there's obviously something in that report which backs up our claim that they don't want us to see. I let the pay review body know on the day, look, this is what I've asked for. Here's the email. They're refusing to provide it. So you asked for it, because obviously there's something there that backs up our argument that they don't want us to know about. It's little things like that that are so important from my point of view for oral submissions. And I must admit that every time I've give oral submissions, certainly under this chair, which unfortunately won't be there after this year because he's retiring, or rather he's been told he's not getting the job again, probably because he's doing such a good job and doesn't care what government says because he recognises how far behind pay we are. I've left the room every time under his chairmanship thinking I've been treated fairly there and people have listened to me and they'll probably act on what we've submitted. And I can't say that very often working with HMPPS because most of the time they just pay lip service to us. They've already decided what's happening despite our protests and objections. And it's a refreshing change from my point of view to deal with people who do give us a grill. And let's be fair here, it's not an easy thing sitting in a room, getting asked questions to justify your pay claim, especially when you've got a highly qualified economist firing questions at you. But I've always left feeling I've been treated fairly.
I was going to ask you, what's the experience like? And it sounds like it is a very thorough one, which in turn the union gives to the pay review body the arguments the pay review body need to push back against HMPPS management, perhaps.
Yeah, it is very thorough. I enjoy it, I must admit, even though it is a grilling. But I think it's testimony to the NEC that our pay submissions are comprehensive, costed well, and justified, that we can produce such a good argument orally that backs everything up that we've written. The POA membership should be very proud of the people at the top table at this moment because we're doing everything we can to improve their working life. And certainly when it comes to pay, we leave no stone unturned and do the best we can.
So a very thorough process of putting in the written submission, of following it up with a very robust oral hearing. Dave, what happens next?
Well, I would hope Lord Timpson lays it out to Treasury why we deserve what we're asking for. It's not long since we've been wasting money hand over fist on a thing called national detached duty. If all the staff in post felt they were paid appropriately, they would not be leaving. You've got competing employers in certain locations. Unless Lord Timpson puts it where it is for prison officers and what rightly they deserve as a decent wage, they'll be leaving to go to alternative employers, and then we'll be losing the experience again. You can't buy experience in this job. It's so bespoke and such a different workplace. We haven't asked for anything ridiculously high. Like I say, I would hope Lord Timpson pushes on Treasury's door very firmly.
Yes, I suppose it's a key point, isn't it? Because if the arguments that the union has presented prevail, then the trend of increasing rates of attrition and departures stops. If they don't, it accelerates. So one way or another, things are going to change significantly. And obviously the hope for the union is it's for the better. How can members support the union's national negotiators? What would the ask be?
They need to get into their MPs. You know, their MPs are aware of the pay submissions because we sent it to every MP in the country. But there's nothing wrong with our members pushing on their MPs to say things like year after year we're paid our pay award late. PPS never, unlike the POA, puts their submission in on time. We play fair. We expect to be treated fairly. So get into the ribs of your local MPs.
Yeah, I think just picking up on what Dave's just said there, totally agree. They need to get into their MPs. But also, I think they're playing a part already. And I really do. For example, every year, the pay review body pick specific sites to go and visit and they engage with POA members. This year, I could not have written the evaluation of those visits better myself because my members have told the pay review body everything we've been telling them for the past 4, 5, 6 years, that the pay is too low, the working conditions are too unsafe, we don't feel valued. And I'd like to thank my members for their engagement with the pay review body team when they go round because they've done an absolutely fantastic job. And by the way, our members are voting with their feet. because over 50% of resignations from the job are from people within 2 years of joining. Over 34% are resignations from people who haven't even passed the probation, so within the first 12 months. That paints a picture. And there's only one way to change that. Pay people what they're worth. Pay them what they're worth. And the only solace I can say to people is, you have got to pay everybody at this moment in time who will give us what they think we deserve. I'm hopeful that we'll get another inflation-busting pay rise. Maybe not as much as what we asked for, although what we've asked for is achievable and affordable. It wouldn't surprise me if they did give us what we asked for. Let's not go down that road, because I always expect nothing, then I can't be upset. But I think we do deserve an above inflation pay rise. We've got to continue that trend until we claw back that 13% that we are below inflation on pay rises over the last 12 years. That's why we've gone down the road of pay restoration. We want to claw that back, because unless we claw it back, people will continue to leave. Why should they stay in a violent occupation where they feel unsupported and undervalued when there's jobs out there who pay just as much, with better working conditions, safer working conditions, and people don't have to work bank holidays, weekends and nights? There's loads of jobs out there like that. I'm hopeful that we'll get a decent award that will be paid sometime before July.
Well, all the union can do is all that it is doing in terms of quality submissions, powerful oral or supplementary submissions, and working hard to encourage a unity of purpose between the union, the pay review body, and those MPs who are members and reps who will be getting it right. Steve, Dave, Mark, thank you all very much for joining me. And listeners, you can keep right up to date by keeping in touch with your local rep or on the union's website, poauk.org.uk. My thanks to Mark and to Steve and to Dave. There is no more important time to be a member of the union than now. And if you are listening to this and have not yet signed up, you can find all the details you need at poauk.org.uk or from your local POA representative. Thank you for listening. We hope you have enjoyed what you've heard and will join us for the next POA podcast. Until then, thank you and goodbye.